Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be learning about the aspects in astrology.
Hi, I'm Charlie Starr. The video you are about to watch is part of my free course, How to Read a Birth Chart. And now, back to this video.
The aspects in astrology describe relationships between different planets. We're going to be focusing on birth chart aspects, but just understand that the energy of the aspects can apply to a variety of different astrology readings, and they always describe a similar type of energy between two planets. The aspects we're going to learn today are the major aspects, otherwise known as the medieval aspects, the conjunction, the square, the trine, the opposition, and the sextile. We're not going to get into the minor aspects. I would consider the minor aspects supplementary to this course and also supplementary to the major aspect. Also in this video, we're going to be talking about the orbs, what an orb is, and what different orbs we apply to different aspects.
I wanted to start out by just showing you on the map what these aspects actually look like in a chart. So this chart I pulled up, this is actually from the current time and location as I'm filming this, for those of you that are curious and knowing. And then I just wrote on the left the degrees that are exact for the aspects. So the aspects are the conjunctions, the oppositions, the trines, the squares, and the sextiles. In this chart, and your chart will probably also color code them, though not necessarily the same way. The oppositions and the squares are in red. These are oppositions. The Sun and Mars is in an opposition, and Pluto and Lilith are in opposition. So those are red. And then also these squares, you have Venus in a square with, well, this midheaven point. This chart I think is upside down. I'm not really sure why, but, and then we have trine. There's two trines here. One's coming from Neptune, one's coming from Jupiter, and that's also going to Black Lilith, and that's in blue. And then we have a few sextiles going on. We have one right here, and one right here. Why do they make the sextiles and the trines in blue and the oppositions and the squares in red? The red aspects, which are the oppositions in this chart, are the oppositions and the squares, indicate more tension, more stress, more likelihood to cause frustration, blockages. These are typically seen as more difficult aspects, but as we'll get into, I think it's a pretty black and white view of it. But in general, it's this delineation between what are the more stressful aspects, and that is the oppositions and the squares, and then the trines and the sextiles are the more easy flowing aspects. You notice that they don't have the conjunctions in an aspect line, because a conjunction is going to be when two planets are close together. So for example, we have right here Venus and Mercury are in an out of sign. That just means because they're in two different signs. Conjunction. Now let's talk about orbs. An orb refers to how exact an aspect is. For example, over here we have Venus at 26 degrees Sagittarius and Mercury at 0 degrees Capricorn. They're actually 4 degrees away, because there's 4 degrees left of Sagittarius. So they're not at 0 degrees, but they're actually 4 degrees away. So they are in conjunction with a 4-degree orb. So now that you understand what that is, you can see over here, the Sun is at 14 degrees and Mars is in opposition, but Mars, oh, I kind of like made it so you couldn't see it, but Mars is at 16 degrees. It's not exact, it's off by 2 degrees. So they are in opposition with a 2-degree orb. That's what an orb is. Now, to answer the question, how far away does an orb have to be before it's no longer considered an aspect? That is an excellent question, and I'm so glad you asked. This is debated in astrology, and honestly, there isn't some magic number that says something is greater than a particular number away, and so therefore it has no effect. All the planets have effect based on their relationship to each other at all times. The only reason we use the aspects is because these highlight degrees and relationships that are significantly felt and seen in our experiences. So all we're really doing is saying where this energy is the most intense and trying to define it. But it really is a gradient scale. In general, 6 degrees for birth chart orb. Basically, if it's within 6 degrees of any one of these aspects, then you can pretty much know that it's going to have an effect of these aspects. For transits, that's when we're getting away from the birth chart. This is going to depend on what planets we're talking about. For example, the moon. When we have full moons and new moons, the moon moves so fast, and this is a general statement in astrology, that the faster a planet moves, the wider the orb can generally be. So because the moon moves extremely fast at about 13 degrees per day, anything that is within 13 degrees of the moon is considered in conjunction. Mostly this is used for conjunctions with the full moons and the new moons, this wide orb. So the moon gets the widest orb for sure. And that's generally transiting. In the birth chart, it's generally not as wide of an orb because that moment is kind of frozen in time. But when we're looking at what's happening now, then the moon generally gets 13 degrees. And then I would say transiting to transiting, everything else gets approximately 6 degrees. But I have seen some orbs be like a little bigger. Like for example, Neptune and Jupiter, like they've been a couple times further apart than 6 degrees, and I've still seen them having an effect, like 7 degrees or 8 degrees. So in transiting planets to transiting planets, approximately 6 degrees. That's what I would say, approximately. And then if you're talking about major transits, which I know we're not really talking about major transits, but just so you know, if you get into transits from major outer planets, then the orb is even tighter. So then major transits to the birth chart. To the birth chart is small. It's like maybe like 3 degrees. But the magic number here that you guys want to keep in mind for the birth chart aspects is 6 degrees. And that is typically whatever software system you're using is going to use, a variation of 6 degrees. But that is one of those things that in a lot of websites, you're able to adjust. Just like you can adjust the house system, you generally can also adjust the orb. Let's go through each of the aspects and we'll talk about what they indicate. Okay, the first aspect we're talking about is the conjunction. So the effect of the conjunction is that the planets join forces and blend their energies. This is pretty intuitively obvious in my opinion. We have a couple of those happening right here. So we have Neptune is in conjunction with Jupiter. We have Venus is in conjunction with Mercury. And then we have the North Node is in conjunction with Uranus. Let's pretend that this is a birth chart because this is a birth chart course. So we're mostly going to be focusing on aspects in the birth chart. In the birth chart, they're going to join their forces and blend their energies together. So anytime that the person experiences the energy of one of these planets, then like they're going to experience these energies together. I don't know why they have the midheaven here and the ascendant here. You can ignore that. I'm just going to like scratch out. If this is their ascendant, then this person's going to have Neptune and Jupiter in conjunction in the second house in Pisces. This is just going to double down on the Pisces energy, and it's going to make this person very visionary, almost like hallucinogenic in their like intense psychic skill, or like dissolving reality, like the three-dimensional reality. And so this person may suffer to have a grip on reality like through their life because they have this conjunction like in their chart, but it's in their second house. This is the things that they value, and it's also the things that like it's the skills that they have to make money with. So we would expect this person to like majorly be involved in either film, because these are all significators of film. So they could be an actress or an actor, very chameleon energy. So if they were to go into acting, they probably wouldn't be one of those like iconic characters that's like the same, plays the same character in every movie. They would be really, really flexible and adaptable, whereas like you maybe wouldn't even like notice that it was the same actor or actress. Then they could also be incredibly psychically gifted. They could be visionaries, seers, spiritual leaders, and guides. They may work with the dead. Like, all of this stuff is indicated as a potential here. This person might also have a really difficult time making money, because with Neptune here, they could get like super confused, right, about how to actually manifest. Because remember, Neptune doesn't want to manifest. Neptune just has like this dreamy, ethereal energy, which kind of creates this like classic Neptunian fog. So having Pisces here and then doubling down on that with Neptune and Jupiter, it's like this person may have a really difficult time making money, because they also may just be so non-attached to like material stuff. They may not really value money, and so therefore they have a hard time functioning in a world in which they are expected to make money to provide for their needs. That's something that could be here, right? So anyway, so you see, but then they have Jupiter. Jupiter's benefic, so they might actually have you know, they're going to be blessed in whatever their skills are here. So I kind of wouldn't expect this person to be like completely without luck when it comes to money, because they have the planet of luck in its own sign in the second house of resources. So it looks like this person's probably getting taken care of, despite the fact that they may be a drug addict, right? That's another thing that this could be, right? Okay, so you can kind of see how these energies are blended together. So then over here you have Venus in conjunction with Mercury. Okay, so Venus, the planet of resources, pleasure, luxury, indulgences, attraction, in conjunction with Mercury. Mercury is savvy, intellectual, okay? And then you also have to take into account the two different signs that are going on here. Sagittarius and also Capricorn in the 11th and 12th house. So this person, like, think beauty plus communication, and also think harmony, Venus, plus mental thoughts. So this person, in effect of this, could be like, they basically have a very Venusian mind. So they may be very focused on pleasure, very focused on money. This is where we're starting to translate. I'm kind of taking you guys all the way like from aspects to birth chart interpretation already, because aspects is like the last thing that we have to look at here. But this person could also be very focused on relationships. They're always thinking about relationships. They're always thinking about fantasy, love, other people's business, right? They may be thinking jealous thoughts all the time. They may be thinking, they may be people pleasers. They may want everybody to get along. Their speech, because of Mercury, their speech is most likely graceful and attractive. So you can see kind of the effects of this conjunction, right? But they're savvy and quick, and they've got money on their mind, because Capricorn can be like hustling for money, and Venus is also the planet of resources. Like, this person could be a drug dealer. Like, honestly, like, you can go from like these aspects to stories with the symbolism, and that's kind of where it gets fun. Like, I absolutely love to kind of guess like these archetypal stories about people before I read their birth chart, and it's really funny because usually I get some things right, but other things, like, they're actually completely expressed in a completely different way, because I don't know that person at all. But generally, like, once you like will see that person, then you can kind of see like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. This is how it's expressing itself. Because people have a lot of choice over how they express this, right? Like, I mean, being a drug dealer or being like a priest, like, because this person could be a priest. If they have Mercury in their 12th house, that is, their thoughts are on, you know, dying. Their thoughts are on the dead, And so they may be a medium, or they may help, they may be a pastor that specializes in helping people grieve. They could be a death doula. They could be any type of work like that, right? Especially with the conjunction being with Venus and Sagittarius, and this person would be a Sagittarius. Sagittarius it can be a very religious, philosophical, searching for meaning of life energy, and there's this person's sun sign, right? Aquarius rising, serving humanity, Saturn in the first, taking on a lot of personal responsibility. This person's last conjunction here, we gotta go. North Node is in conjunction with Uranus. Uranus, we've learned about, it's sudden, rebellious, out of the box, unique, something we've never seen before, is in conjunction with their North Node. Okay, we haven't gotten into the North Nodes, but that's essentially like their karmic destiny, is like the journey of their soul, right? So how this person is going to end up is going to look rather unique. They are moving towards Uranian energy throughout their life. So they're being called to stand out from the crowd. They're being called to be different, and to be okay with being different, to be the foreigner, to be the alien, to bring something new to us. This person is on a mission away from conformity. All right, let's move on to the oppositions. So the next aspect that we're going to be talking about is the opposition. The opposition is 180 degrees away from each other. The Sun is in opposition with Mars, and the other is Pluto is in opposition with Lilith. The effect of this is energies tug at the opposite ends of a polarity in a struggle that ultimately seeks balance in the potential landscape of war. Remember, the oppositions and the squares are considered challenging aspects. So these oppositions, there's a planet that is in the sign, generally they're in the opposite signs of each other. You could have an out of sign opposition, right? But generally they're in opposing signs. In this one we have Gemini opposing Sagittarius. So this person's sun sign in Sagittarius is in opposition with Mars in Gemini. There's going to be a struggle within the individual because this is the birth chart, right? Now, in transits, the struggles are generally experienced externally. It's a struggle between you and somebody else. But in the birth chart, this is describing a struggle that exists within the individual person. So there is inner strife. People who have a lot of oppositions in their chart, there's generally a lot of conflicting, arguing voices within their head because they're kind of playing their own demon on the shoulder, angel on the shoulder, devil's advocate. They're making some choice and the other part of themselves is judging for them for that choice. There's unrest, right, within the individual psyche with oppositions, and it's fighting over an imbalance that is generally happening within the person. So they're like going to one extreme of the other and then going to the opposite extreme of that. In some way, shape, or form, there's some part of themselves that won't let them be at rest or at peace with some decisions or thoughts that they're having. So why is that? Now, this person, it's their sun. So the sun is very much your ego, your identity, and that's in Sagittarius. That's in the 11th house. That's associated with groups of people. Like we said, it's very likely that this person is like a priest. So like they're a religious leader, they're a spiritual leader, they have that skill, potentially, right? So let's go with that story. So if then they have Mars, which is their vitality, their energy, their drive, is in Gemini. Now, when we look at Sagittarius, Sagittarius is the teacher, Gemini is generally the student. Gemini is a receptive sign. It's open to a lot of ideas. There's a lot of incoming information, and Gemini receives all this information and tries to practically put it in the most appropriate category, in the most appropriate place, and the most useful. Gemini is focused on useful information, and it's very receptive to all types of incoming stimulation. Sagittarius, on the other hand, is the sign of belief. It's the sign of faith. It's the sign of, like I said, the teacher. This is more of a projecting energy, and this is this person's dominant energy, projecting energy, because this is their sun sign. So this person might be, let's go with the story that they're a religious teacher, but then they actually, over here in the 5th house, now the 5th house is the house of children. Here's where things get complex, right? So say that they have children, or maybe they have a child who's very open-minded, who is much more receptive to other ideas that this person has closed themselves off from a long time ago. Now there's a conflict in this person's life. Yeah, I just said that the conflict was within themselves, but it is, because the child is just expressing something that is already within that individual, right? Which is the curiosity in life, the lightheartedness of life, and the open-mindedness that you get, the juice of life, which is Mars. Mars is like the juice of life that you get when you open yourself up to new information and new experiences. So that may be, but these new experiences may be out of the comfort zone or the belief system of this Sagittarius person. Okay, so that's one way that that could express itself. Let's go for a different expression. Say this person, Sagittarius, they in the 11th house, say they're not a priest. Say that they absolutely love to travel. Most Sagittarius love to travel. But they feel like they have responsibilities to children. That's another way that this opposition could play out, because they think, you know, I want to go have fun and I want to travel and I want to explore the world, but I feel that I have to be the adult for the young people in my life. I need to protect them. I need to take care of them. I desire to take care of them, but that comes with a lot of responsibilities, right? So that could be another opposition. This person may take on a lot of responsibility because they have Saturn in the 1st house. So they may stay home and decide to raise children instead of going off on these, worldwide adventures that their heart, their sun really wants to do. Next, we have the trine. The trine is 120 degrees when inexact, and the effect is that it's a supportive and enabling flow. Trines are less noticed in life because everything is going well. One part of yourself is supporting another part of yourself, and we don't tend to focus on things that are going well. We tend, as human beings, to focus on things that are not going well. So people will have a lot less conversation about the trines in their lives and about the trines that they're experiencing in life. They're generally less eventful. Nonetheless, let's talk about how they can express themselves, because it still plays out in significant ways. It's not really generally causing internal problems, and so we don't notice it. We haven't learned Lilith. In this chart, the trine is happening to Lilith. Lilith is going to be learned in the next video. So we're going to pretend that this is the moon. I'm just going to write this in. We're going to pretend this is the moon instead, because we already are familiar with the moon symbolism, and so we'll just use that as an example. So the trine in this chart is happening between Neptune and also Jupiter, because they are close together, and we're going to say that that's the moon instead of the Lilith moon. Let's just say that that's the regular moon. So what does that look like? So this person, now say they're a very compassionate person, like they have Pisces as in their 2nd house. These people generally, one way that this can be is that they want to save the world, right? Here's the savior, the redeemer element of Neptune here in Pisces in the 2nd house. This is skills that they basically have to monetize. So this agenda, this desire that they have for their life is well supported by their moon in Cancer. Cancer is a spiritual sign. It's connected with nurturing. It's connected with history and lineage and the past and the mother and housing. And it's in the 6th house. So as we just learned, the trinity of matter includes the second house and the sixth house. So these signs, these houses, are naturally in a trine. They're naturally supportive. The skills that you have to monetize are naturally going to flow well with the service that you do, with the work that you do, right? Your values, where your values lie, you're going to put in the effort. So immediately what I see here being agreeable and harmonious is the desire to save the world through passionate, compassionate service, giving of the self, dissolution of the ego we have in Pisces, and the act of service, and the moon being the emotional center. So this person may have a deep emotional desire to serve humanity. Because it's Cancer here, they may also have like a lineage or a teacher of their family, from their past, that is teaching them or guiding the way, leading them into this path. So they're supportive. Perhaps they're supported by their mother in this task as well. But I would generally say that this is reflecting the heart of this person to serve humanity, is well supported between the moon in Cancer in the sixth and Pisces with Neptune and Jupiter in the second. That is very obvious to me. Okay, next we have the square. The square is a tension point with two planets being 90 degrees away from each other. The effect of this is that the tension builds as neither party can move forward until one or both parties break their usual pattern and try something new. This effectively creates a block. So what happens is the two planets are increasing in energy towards each other, and like I said, there's a lot of tension that builds. What has to happen is one of two things. One, there isn't going to be any forward motion, because the energy of this aspect is that they are locking each other into a position where neither of them can move forward. It's like having the other one in a deadlock. That's kind of the energy of it, especially when it's in the birth chart. The planets aren't going to be moving away out of this square naturally. This is the square that this person has to deal with for the rest of their life. So this is a tense aspect. And what squares generally serve to do is force a person to break a pattern, because each part of the chart that's represented by each side of the tension point is fixed in a pattern that are inherently incompatible with the pattern of the other planet. So one of the planets, which represents one part of that person, needs to change, break the pattern, and try something new. That is exactly what this square is here to do. And that is why squares are considered either a major action point, or sometimes it's read as inaction, delays, deadlock, having to wait because no action can be made. That's not true that no action can be made. Action can be made, but not the traditional action. It's going to have to be a different kind of action. In this example chart, we have the conjunction of Venus and Mercury in a square with the conjunction of Neptune and Jupiter. If this was somebody's birth chart, that's pretty intense, because you actually have 4 planets that are squaring each other. Let's pretend this is a birth chart, and let's try and make some educated guesses as to how this tension could play out in a person's life. So we have this person with Venus and Mercury right here in conjunction on the cusp of their 11th and 12th house. This is in a square with Neptune and Jupiter. Now, the first thing that I notice is that Venus is the planet that wants pleasure and wants luxury and wants money and wants resources. That's a tense, that I can immediately see the conflict over here, right? Because you have this part of the chart right here is saying that this person doesn't really value money. They're kind of dissolving the desire and the attachment for money. But over here, obviously, Venus does want money and Venus does want pleasure. This could have to do with, say this person is in a religious profession, they took a vow of celibacy, and this is a sexual tension that they're having within themselves, where they're like, I want relationship. Venus is the planet of relationships. I want relationship. I want love. I want attraction. I want, I want a partner, but I gave it up, right? Like my profession won't allow me to have it. Or maybe they have a belief that it's not holy, that it's not something that is appropriate for them, right? So that's one way it could play out. This could also have to do with pleasure in general. This person could feel a lot of guilt about pleasure because maybe they feel like pleasure is beneath the thing that they really value. Same with money. This person could need money and feel guilty about that. So something has to give. Otherwise, they're just going to continue to feel this internalized stress of, maybe feeling guilty for wanting these three-dimensional things, which, hello, they have a body, and I have opinions about that. But that is definitely one way that I could see this playing out. Okay, lastly, we have the sextile. The sextile is the last of the medieval or the traditional aspects, and it's definitely the most minor of all of them. It's in effect really similar to a trine, but it's just not as powerful. It's going to be 60 degrees as opposed to 120 degrees, so it's half. And I would say the effect is about half as harmonious, half as supportive. The trines really are catalysts towards things flowing and things going in a direction. The sextiles express themselves more as opportunities. So this will open doorways for the person that is experiencing this sextile. This is opportunistic in nature, and because this is somebody's birth chart, this is expressing types of opportunities that will appear and reappear and continually express themselves throughout this person's life. So it's really nice to have a lot of sextiles because it just means that there's more options available to you. You don't always have to take these options, but you're probably going to notice them. In this example, I have highlighted here the sextile between Neptune and Jupiter and also this person's moon. We also have another sextile between Pluto and Neptune, and we have a sextile between the Sun and Saturn. Let's take some guesses at some ways that this could play out for this person. So this person has Saturn in their first house, potentially near the ascendant. I just sort of arbitrarily wrote ascendant at the top, but if this was in conjunction with their ascendant degree, then that would be even more powerful. So the Saturn is in their first house, meaning that this person takes on a lot of responsibility. What are they taking a lot of responsibility for? Well, for other people, particularly groups of people. This chart is very group oriented. We have the Sun in the 11th, we have Saturn on the ascendant, and we have Pisces in the second house with Neptune there. This person wants to save the world, in effect. That's what this says to me. So the person is taking on a lot of responsibility, and lo and behold, that responsibility is probably going to be the thing that opens the window of opportunity for them to shine as a teacher, as a guru, as a leader of the people, right? That is kind of what I'm seeing is the type of thing here. So their effort, their hard work to serve the community is being supported, and this probably works the other way too. So them being a leader of the people probably opens up opportunities for them to take on more responsibility for other people. So that sextile is it's working both ways, and that's often how the sextile will work in the birth chart. So then we also have Pluto in a sextile with Neptune in Pisces. Now, this is where I was starting to talk about how we tend to think of the sextiles and the trines as as good or easy, but actually when I look at this one, I see opportunity for loss, because Pluto is the planet of death, and Neptune and Jupiter in Pisces is definitely an indicator of death or loss. Also, Pluto's in the 12th house. This is also the house of endings or loss or the dissolution of things. So to me, this sextile right here, just going to highlight it one more time so you see which one I'm talking about. This sextile right here, to me, says repeated opportunity in their life for loss, repeated opportunity in their life for death, for suffering, for things to be taken away from them. So this person might be a monk, or they might have gone through some major tragic accident. They might have lost a lot of people, but because it's in the second house of resources, most likely what they're losing is money, right? It's usually resource-based. That's the type of thing that they are losing here because it's the second house. Let's spin this positively, because most of the time aspects are going to express themselves at some points negatively and at some points positively throughout a person's life in the birth chart. So a positive way that this could be is, say this person, their desire for adventure over here with their sun in Sagittarius has led them down a pretty seedy road. Now, they have an opportunity to get out of it. They have an opportunity to change, to dissolve their current lifestyle and to completely turn over a new leaf, because that is also a loss, an ending, a giving up of things, giving up of things that they value, giving up of things that they do for work. So this could be them turning over a new leaf, changing their ways, finding something more productive and beneficial to do with their life.
Okay, and that concludes our video on the aspects. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll be seeing you next time. Thanks for watching.